Hearthstone's newest expansion, Titans, is right around the corner. So in this video, I theory crafted 11 brand new decks, one for each class, ready for you to use on day one of the new expansion. Every deck you're about to see in this video, I tried to use as many of the new cards as possible while still keeping them competitive. So without further ado, let's hop into deck number one. Alright, so first up on our list is going to be this new Treant Nature Druid. This one combines a lot of really cool new nature synergy and choose one synergy for some really powerful swing turns in the mid game. So we have the new Embrace of Nature card along with the Disciple of Eonar that make your next choose one card have both effects combined. So we can use that with Nourish for a ton of ramp and draw. We can use the new Lifebinder's Gift to fill up our hand with nature spells and to discount them, or we can get some massive swing turns with the Drum Circle and the new Ancient of Growth. So with both of these cards, it first summons the Treants and then buffs them. So with Ancient of Growth, it ends up summoning 3 5/5s with Taunt, and with Drum Circle, it summons 5 4/6s with Taunt. And if those huge swing turns weren't enough, we are running Topior because we're running a lot of nature spells, so it just gives us a lot of gas against those slower control matchups. And to help find these really big swing turns, we're using the Summer Flower Child. So the ideal curve would be the Disciple of Eonar on turn 4 into a Summer Flower Child on turn 5 into a combined effect Ancient of Growth or Drum Circle on turn 6. And because the Ancient of Growth and Drum Circle summon so many Treants, along with all the other Treant cards we're running like the Witchwood Apple and the Natural Causes and Plot of Sin for the early game, we can really take advantage of the new Cultivation card for our finisher. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one because Treants have always been kind of one of my favorite archetypes. The second deck up on our list is going to be this new Plague Death Knight. So first of all, we are going to be running Unholy, Unholy, and Frost Runes just so we can take advantage of all the Plague cards. So with Plagues, certain cards get to shuffle these Plagues into your opponent's deck, like the Staff of the Primus, or Down with the Ship, or Distressed Cavaldir, or the new legendary Hell Yeah. And what these plagues do is they can be one of 3 random harmful effects, and they automatically cast when your opponent draws them. And they take 2 damage and either make your opponent's next card cost 1 more, heal you for 2, or summon a 2/2 minion on your side. So they don't do a huge effect right away, but with a lot of them, they can really add up. And we can take even more advantage of them using cards like Tomb Trader to deal 3 damage to all opposing minions, or the new Chained Guardians. We can get a 0 mana 8/5 Rush Reborn. And this is one of the best Titan cards in my opinion, because one of his abilities allows you to kill a minion and absorb its health. So if you kill something really big with it, you absorb a lot of health and it protects itself so it can probably live, so you can use its second and third ability. And I did actually get the chance to play with this deck early for the early access theory crafting event, and it did perform really well, so watch out for this deck. This third deck up is an interesting one, and it's Mech Rogue. Feels weird saying those 2 words together, Mech and Rogue, but it's actually a lot better than you think. And a lot of it boils down to the From the Scrap Heap card. So it gets you 3 1/1s that you can magnetize, and they all have random bonus effects, like either Rush or Taunt or Poison, and you can create some really big swing turns with these. And that leads us to another new card, the Lab Constructor. So after this is forged, you can magnetize it onto any mech, and at the end of the turn, it'll copy itself. So if you don't deal with this right away, you just get infinite value and pretty much just win the game by itself. And we're using the Mimiron card as well. And this card can also snowball the game too, if you can protect it with some Divine Shields or Stealth mechs. And then to help finish off the games, we are of course going to be using the new Mech Titan, the Voltron Prime. And the 3 effects on this one are you can buff a minion and draw a card, you can buff a minion, make it untargetable, and you can buff a minion and deal damage to a random enemy. And these abilities also trigger on another random mech that you have, so you can double them up. Yeah, this deck might be a sleeper because it actually performed pretty well in playtesting and looks pretty good on paper, so watch out, you might be surprised by this deck. The fourth deck that I have for you is going to be this Nature Overload Shaman. And I have to say, this one felt strong. You can set up some really powerful swing turns out of nowhere. And it's all thanks to a few new cards. So we have the Flash of Lightning, which draws a card and makes all your nature spells cost 1 less on the next turn. And especially if you can combine that with the Champion of Storms, where when it's forged, every time you play a nature spell, you get a 4/2 rusher. So you can see where I'm going with this, but you can just spam a ton of really cheap nature spells and in a single turn with this. And then after you do that, you'll have a board full of these 4/2s that you can slap a bioluminescence onto every one of them. So you can get a ton of spell damage. And then for 0 mana, you can play a Crash of Thunder for some huge AoE damage. And if you have any mana left over, you can maybe launch like a lightning bolt or two-face. And sometimes you can even get like an OTK off of this combo. And as we get in towards the late game, then we can play our Titan Golganeth. And this one is really good. It's just a versatile Titan, which either kills a minion or does AoE damage and heals you, or draws you a bunch of cards. So you can just never go wrong playing this Titan. And then to polish off our opponents, we are going to be using the Horn of the Windlord, combined with the new Turn the Tides. So if you play like 1 or 2 of these on your Wind Fury weapon, you can hit your opponent for like 18 damage in a single turn. So yeah, this deck has a ton of damage, a ton of removal, a ton of healing. It just kind of has a ton of everything. The 5th new deck I have for you is going to be the Spell School Mage. I also had the chance of playtesting this deck early, and I have a video up on this deck already as well, but it was my favorite deck that I got to play early, and it felt really good too. So the whole gist of this deck is to be casting a ton of different spell schools. And we can do that obviously in Mage by playing an Arcane, Frost, or Fire spell. We can also get spell schools from other classes, like we can use Discovery of Magic, a Prismatic Elemental, or the new Watcher of Sun for a holy spell, and also the Molten Rune card. And to take advantage of all these different spell schools that we're playing throughout the game, we have the new Inquisitive Creation, which is a board clear that gets upgraded for every spell school that you've played, or the Wisdom of Norgannon, which gets cheaper for every spell school you've played, and the Elemental Inspiration, where you get a 4/5 for every spell school you've played, and my new favorite card, Sif, which gets +1 spell damage for every spell school you've played. And there are 7 spell schools in the game, so Sif can get up to 8 spell damage, especially if you can combine that with any cheap spell like the Molten Rune. You can do a ton of damage. And the cool thing about Molten Rune is it casts twice, which means you get a double dip on that spell damage. So if you have a fully maxed out Sif, you can do 11 damage and then 11 damage again with this Molten Rune. And of course, we are going to be using the Mage Titan Norgannon. This one is a tricky one to work well, but if you can go up to the 3rd ability, it's really strong. So he either deals 5 damage, casts 1 Mage Secret, or makes all your opponent's cards cost 1 more. And every time you use one of his abilities, the next one gets doubled. So like my favorite combo is to save the damage one for last, so you can do up to 20 damage on that 3rd ability. Yeah, this deck was really fun, and because you're generating so many random cards throughout the game, and especially from other classes, every game just keeps you on your toes and it feels different and unique. The 6th deck is for all the Pogo Hopper fans out there, and that's Automaton Priest. So it's all based around a 1 mana mech that gets +1/+1 for every other automaton you've summoned this game. So naturally, we just want to be copying this thing and resurrecting it as many times as possible. And we can do that with Animate Dead to resurrect it, or the Power Chord Synchronize to get copies of it. And also we can use some new cards, like the Celestial Projectionist to get a copy back to our hand that we can play, or the Creation Protocol to discover 2 copies from our deck. And if our opponent has managed to kill every single one that we've summoned, we can summon them all again with the Raw Den. So you can see that these little automatons get big fast. And to help give us time so we can make these things big, we have a lot of removal in here, like the Cannibalize, or Clean the Scene, or the Whirlpool. And also, of course, we are using the new Titan Aman'Thul. So this Titan either gets to remove 2 of your opponent's minions from the game, create a copy of a minion, or summon a random 6-drop and give it Taunt and Lifesteal. So overall, just a very versatile Titan. Yeah, whether this deck ends up being a meme or not, I'm really looking forward to playing with some huge Astral Automatons, just like the good old days of Pogo Hopper again. The 7th deck you might recognize, and that's Jade Paladin. I mean, Earthen Paladin. Similar to like the Jade Idols of Druid of long ago, we're going to be summoning a 2/2 minion that gets larger and larger and larger every time you summon it. We can summon it through the Stoneheart King and the Disciple of Amethyst. Then we can resurrect them again using the Tears and also Tyr himself. The only caveat is that because Tears, and Tyr resurrect a 2, 3, and 4 attack Paladin minion, we have to be very selective as what Paladin minions we put in this deck. So you'll notice the only Paladin minions we have are the Stoneheart King, the Disciple, so we're guaranteed a bunch of Earthens every time we use the Tyr, and Tyr. And to help make even more copies, we do have the Celestial Projectionist again, along with Zola the Gorgon. And because we're running a lot less Paladin cards in here than like a typical pure Paladin, when we use service spell, we have a pretty high likely chance of finding any of our earthen stuff that we need to get the ball rolling. So yeah, once this deck starts to get going, it's going to be pretty hard to stop it. And coming in at number 8 on our list is going to be this big recruit control Warlock. I don't know what you call this deck, but it can do some pretty cool stuff. So the gist of it is to have really high statted minions in our deck so we can utilize the new Forge of Wills card and the Loken Jailer of Yogg-Saron. So what Loken does is he gets to take a look at one of the minions in your deck and summons a minion of their stats. So for example, if you get to pull a Fanatim, you get a 15/15, or if you happen to pull the Sargeras, you get a 6/12. And on top of that, you can use a Forge of Wills on them to summon another minion of those stats and rush. So you can just create some massive swing turns in the mid game with this. And because we're running so few minions in our deck, we're guaranteed to pull one of these huge minions whenever we want to do this combo. And another cool little mini combo is we can do a Forge of Wills on turn 3 into a Imposing Anubisath on turn 4, or a 7/7 taunt and a 7/7 rusher. But if our huge swing turns weren't enough to just win the game on the spot, we do have some infinite value with the Lord Jaraxxus and the new Sargeras Titan. All we need to do is just play removal, like using the new Wing Welding or the Mortal Eradication, and eventually just over time overwhelm our opponents. And one cool little sneaky card I have in here is the Reverberations, because you can use this on enemy Titans and you get to immediately use one of their abilities. So it's kind of like you get to steal a Titan for 3 mana. Yeah, this deck looks super fun and cheesy, but definitely not if you're on the receiving end of this. This next deck is going to be a lot more on the aggressive side, and that's going to be a Secret Face Hunter. So we can kick the game off by playing an Awakening Tremors or the new Victorious Vrykul just to start snowballing a little bit. And then with the help of our new secrets, we can keep that snowball going. So we have the new Bait and Switch card, where if our opponent attacks into one of our minions, it gets +3/+3. And then we also have the Cat Trick Secret, where if our opponent plays a spell, we get a 4/2 Panther, which has really nice synergy with our next card, and that's the Fable Stable Hand. So it's just a 3/3 rush, but if you have a minion with 4 attack or more, like the Cat Trick or the Awakening Tremors, it gets an extra +2/+2. So basically our secrets can provide a lot of pressure, make it really annoying to always have to play around them, in fear of potentially taking even more damage. And then to help finish off the game, we are using the new Starstrung Bow, which gets cheaper for every secret that has activated. And it's really easy to get this down to like 3 or 2 mana, and being able to push 12 damage for just like 2 or 3 mana is absolutely nuts. And if we don't get that weapon, we do have another weapon we can equip with our Agramar. And the 3 abilities from this guy buff up your weapon to either draw when you attack, get immune when you attack, or get a 3/3 taunt when you attack. I did also get a chance to playtest this deck for the early access stream as well, and I do have to say it was one of the stronger decks that I played. This 10th deck on the list is going to be a spicy one, and that's going to be this Black Rock and Roll Warrior featuring the new Steam Guardian. So with this deck, the only spell that we're running in our deck is the Black Rock and Roll. So when we play the new Steam Guardian that draws a fire spell, we're guaranteed to draw the Black Rock and Roll, and it also discounts it by a mana so we can play it on the next turn on turn 4. And from there, we just get to do all the fun Black Rock and Roll stuff, like playing a huge Decimator Olgra or a big Ramornia or Trench Stalker. We also have some really cool new minions to take advantage of this as well. We have the Minotaurin, which is a 6 mana 5/5 rush. Whenever it deals damage, you gain armor. So the bigger this guy gets, the more armor you get when he attacks. So this is a perfect way to stabilize after you played the Black Rock and Roll. And we also have the new Titan Khaz'goroth, which every time you play him, he gets immune and attacks a random enemy minion. So over 3 turns and 3 abilities, he'll pretty much kill 3 enemy minions while getting bigger himself. And because we're running all minions in this deck, after you play the Black Rock and Roll, we can play Magatha to draw 5 minions guaranteed. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one to cheese out some wins with the Black Rock and Roll. It's either going to be a meme or really good, but either way, it's going to be a lot of fun. And the last deck, and number 11 on our list, is going to be a Relic Demon Hunter. Honestly, there wasn't a whole lot going for Demon Hunter this expansion, but there are a few really cool new cards that we can throw into this deck. Like we have the new Jotun the Eternal. For the rest of the game, the first spell you draw is cast for free. So we can use that with our relics to cast like a free Relic of Dimensions or another free copy of Relic of Phantasms. And that helps really build up our relics even faster. And we can find more relics like the Relic of Extinction or the Relic of Phantasms using the new Runic Adornment, which shuffles 2 copies into your deck that cast when drawn. And we also do have a way of tutoring those with the new Sharp-Eyed Seeker. So we can discover a copy, shuffle them into the deck on turn 2, and then on turn 3, immediately draw a copy of it. And then to help finish off the game, of course, we are using the new Titan, Argus, the Emerald Star. And overall, it's just a very versatile card. Like, you can make a bunch of taunts, you can make a death rattle, or you can reduce the cost of all minions in your hand by 2, and that allows you to set up some crazy swing turns later. So even though Relic Demon Hunter isn't that new of a deck, it did get some really cool new tools. Well, that's going to wrap up all the decks that I have for you to use on day 1 of the new Hearthstone Titans expansion. I hope you enjoyed these decks and I was able to give you some ideas of what to use yourself. And if you liked any of the decks that you saw in this video, let me know by leaving a like down below. And every deck that you saw in this video and every deck you see on this channel is always handmade and refined by me. And I promise to never net deck and focus on off-meta decks. If you want to see the most competitive and fun off-meta decks for the new expansion, then consider subscribing. And I'll see you in the new Titans expansion. Stay funky.